Today, we were just talking about Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem became the first cabinet secretary to be fired by Donald Trump in his second term. Donald Trump announced the news about 20 minutes before Kristi Noem was set to deliver the keynote address at a law enforcement conference in Nashville, during which she did not address her firing that had just been announced 20 minutes before. In announcing Noem's firing on social media, Donald Trump wrote, Noem will be moving to be special envoy for the Shield of the Americas, our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere we are announcing on Saturday in Doral, Florida. I thank Kristi for her service at Homeland. Donald Trump didn't say why Kristi Noem was fired. This is how Fox reported it.
When I saw this news, I called an administration source to ask what was going on, and they told me that they were going to send me some spicy reaction. And what I am about to read is both spicy and not subtle. The text reads as follows. It was time. Replacing Kristi was based on the culmination of her many unfortunate leadership mishaps, including the fallout in Minnesota, the $200 million ad campaign, the allegations of infidelity, the mismanagement of her staff, and her constant feuding with the heads of other agencies, including CBP and ICE.
Now, the straw that broke the camel's back may just have been Kristi Noem's less than stellar hearings this week before the Senate and House Judiciary Committees. On Tuesday, Noem testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee.
I just asked if you had anything you wanted to say to the parents or to the family of Renee Good after you called them domestic terrorists.
I can't even imagine what they have gone through in the loss of their son and the loss of their family members.
But how about specifically calling them domestic terrorists without any evidence of that?
Sir, ma'am, I did not call him a domestic terrorist. I said it appeared to be an incident of.
I think the parents saw it for what it was.
Do you want to take an opportunity to apologize to their families that you characterized them on the basis of the information you had at the time that they were engaged in domestic terrorism?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I certainly offer my condolences to these families and for their loss. And it's a tragic situation that we saw in Minneapolis, and we continue to work to make sure that those situations are handled appropriately.
Question. I understand you're offering condolences. You said something that accused them of being domestic terrorists. A 37-year-old mother of three, a 37-year-old Veteran Administration nurse. One question. Do you want to apologize for that characterization that they were domestic terrorists?
I will continue every day to get up and to work hard to give everybody.
You talk about killing a dog that was 14 months old. I train dogs, all right? And you are a farmer. You should know better. You should know that if you're going out to a hunting lodge and you're putting pheasants out and you're putting dogs out, you don't take a puppy out there. A 14-month-old dog is basically a teenager in dog years. You decided to kill that dog because you had not invested the appropriate time in training, and then you have the audacity to go into a book and say it's a leadership lesson about tough choices. It's in your book. We could play it if we had time. At that same lunch hour, you killed a goat. And you killed the goat because you said it was behaving badly. You are a farmer. You don't castrate a goat. They behave badly. You should have probably done that before. But my point is, those are bad decisions made in the heat of the moment, not unlike what happened up in Minneapolis. We're an exceptional nation. And one of the reasons we're exceptional is we expect exceptional leadership. And you've demonstrated anything but that.
Yesterday, Noem again refused to apologize to the families of Renee Good and Alex Pretty when challenged to do so by the top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee, Jamie Raskin.
You stated the conclusion 2 hours after they were killed that they were domestic terrorists. I wanted to give you an opportunity to correct the record, not just for their family, but for everybody in America who believes in the truth and fairness and honesty.
In every situation, as facts come out, we relay.
You know, your acting ICE director, Todd Lyons, came before Congress. He said he had no knowledge whatsoever that Alex Pretty and Renee Good were domestic terrorists. None. This is your guy. He said that. He admitted that that was wrong. Why won't you admit it?
I'll tell you the investigation's still ongoing, and we'll...
So do you regret speaking before the investigation?
I would say that in those situations,
you regret that?
Chaotic scene on the ground, we relay information to the American people that they're asking for. And as the things change, situations change.
People were asking you whether they were domestic terrorists? And you decided that they were before the investigation?
As we learn more, we
You don't want to say anything to their families?
I did. I said condolences.
For what?
How
about an apology for what you said about their loved ones?
My heart is with them, and we will continue to stand with them as they get a complete investigation into these situations.
All right.
So now you're getting a picture of why she might be out of her job. Then there's how she handled questions about the Department of Homeland Security's $220 million ad campaign.
The president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it correctly,
did the president know
worked with
you were going to do
OMB.
this?
Yes.
He did?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
And one thing, Senator, I think would be helpful to know is how effective that communications has been. That
well, they
overwhelmingly
were effective in your name recognition. I mean, I personally just, I mean, to me, it puts the president in a terribly awkward spot.
After that testimony, quote, President Donald Trump told Reuters on Thursday that he did not sign off on a $220 million border security advertising campaign featuring Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who faced bipartisan criticism over the commercials during U.S. congressional hearings this week. Quote, I never knew anything about it, the president told Reuters in a phone interview. Donald Trump announced today that Oklahoma Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin will replace Noem effective March 31st. You may remember Senator Markwayne Mullin as the senator who challenged the Teamsters president Sean O'Brien to a fight during a 2023 hearing. Yeah, that's an interesting moment in senatorial history. Today, in an article titled Trump Fires Kristi Noem Finally, the Wall Street Journal editorial board writes, quote, while Mr. Trump praised Ms. Noem's spectacular results, there's no mistaking this move as anything other than a fed-up president cutting loose an aide who made herself into a serious liability, end quote. All right, leading off our discussion tonight is the Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota. She's a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee and the Senate Commerce Committee. She's also a candidate for the governor of Minnesota. Senator Klobuchar, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks, Allie. It's great to be on.
Her answer to your question about calling Alex Preddy a domestic terrorist, when she said she didn't call him a domestic terrorist, she said it appeared to be an incident of domestic terrorism. You're a lawyer and a legislator. That is some hair splitting if I've ever seen it.
It was just insulting. It was insulting to Alex Preddy's family. I had explained that when I talked to his parents the day after he was killed, that they had told me directly that that hurt them more than anything that had happened since they had learned that their son was dead. And so I felt that I had to bring that up to her and ask her if she wanted to say anything to the family. But I have to be honest, Allie, I never thought she would pretty much meander around and act like she hadn't said it by splitting hairs in a ridiculous way. And also, she wouldn't really admit that it was wrong that they rammed the door through of a U.S. citizen, the Hmong elder, and dragged him out in his underwear. She wouldn't admit it was wrong to stop off-duty cops just because of the color of their skin. And on one of the police officers, they put guns to her face. And this happened in one of our suburbs. I think a lot of our colleagues had not heard some of these stories, and I hope that it helped to get them even madder on the Republican side when they asked their questions.
She said something else. I remember I was working both days when Renee Good was killed and when Alex Preddy was killed. I was on the air when Alex Preddy was killed, and my executive producer said there's been another shooting involving a federal agent in Minnesota. And we're awfully careful about this when we hear this information, because we know video will come in. We know lots of information. We know heat of the moment. And so we don't characterize things. And in both instances, Kristi Noem was very, very fast to characterize it. DHS said that Alex Preddy was brandishing a weapon. And so the next morning I got on TV and showed you frame by frame that was not true.
I remember, Allie. I remember, and it took a while for, as you said, you try to be careful. Former prosecutor, I try to be careful. And it wasn't until I saw that video blown up of the gun in the holster and the border control agents in Alex Preddy's case taking that gun out of the holster that you realized what they had actually done. But they lied at the beginning, and she then just embraced that and threw that out there as the head of Homeland Security. And I still am amazed by the questions that Senator Tillis asked. Of course, that was probably one of the most interesting part of all the questions, but with the goat and the dog. But I just believe that it shows that sometimes people say, why do you have these hearings? What difference do they make? She was still in her job before those hearings started. They had not removed her from her job. Those hearings made a difference. Of course, what made the most difference was the people of Minnesota standing up, 50,000 of them marching peacefully. That made the most difference. But she was still in her job, even after all that. And the fact that we were able to take her on and pinpoint her on the fact that she wouldn't answer these questions. She wouldn't explain what had really happened in all these cases in Minnesota. And she didn't even seem to know the number of agents that were truly on the ground. There were all kinds of things that were incorrect in her testimony.